Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 4 articles in this episode for you. First 2 have to do with fake news, and the second two have to do with the Faithless Texas Elector. So we'll get started with it here. And the first one I have is off of fellowshipoftheminds.com. Wayne Madsen. Snopes.com is a CIA operation. This morning, our DCG published this post. Facebook is going to use Snopes and other fact checkers to combat this very fake news. Using Snopes as an authority is laughable. According to an independent investigative reporter, Wayne Madsen, the so-called fact-checking authentication website, Snopes.com, is a go-to website for the CIA propaganda. From Madsen's For Subscribers Only report of October 7th of 2016, Snopes.com, the latest CIA addition to internet disinformation. On April the 19th of 2016, WMR reported Snopes.com is run by a California couple named Barbara and David Mickelson, who founded the San Fernando Valley Folklore Society. The Mickelsons chose the name Snopes because it is the name of a fictional family featured in William Faulkner's novels that includes a pedophile, a murderer, a bigamist, a corrupt racist politician, and a thief who live in the fictional Paffa, I'm guessing that's how it's pronounced, county in Mississippi. The idea is to label all those, the Mickelsons, as candidates for membership in the Snopes family. Snopes.com is on record calling WMR's disreputable website. Nothing says CIA more than Snopes.com's description of legitimate news reports of CIA Director John Brennan being a Wahhabist and Saudi sympathizer as bogus. Snopes' most recent dissembling of the truth was a discount report from Greece that Turkey has been shipping weapons disguised as furniture shipments to Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, otherwise known as ISIL, and affiliated terrorist groups in North Africa and Europe. Snopes claims that because the story of a Greek Coast Guard interception of weapons shipment south of the island of Crete dates from 2015, there is no validity to the Turkish connections to weapons shipments to ISIL terrorists. The weapons was a Bolivian-flagged Haddad 1 operated by Delta Sea Maritime of Turkey. The vessel had loaded 12 containers at the Egyptian port of Alexandria, a favorite weapons shipping location for the CIA. The ship, before stopping in Famagusta in Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, loaded another 3 containers at the Turkish port of Iskenderun for the shipment of captured weapons from Muammar Gaddafi's arms warehouse to Syrian jihadist rebels. It was the Iskenderun transport operation that involved the late U.S. envoy to Libya, Christopher Stevens, Turkish general in Benghazi, Ali Saint Akin, CIA Director David Petrus, Petrus, and reportedly senior advisor to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The CIA had to commission its favorite internet disinformation site to throw cold water on the Turkish weapons links to ISIL because it threatens to expose the CIA's massive weapons smuggling operations to ISIL terrorists. that involved the Turkey Defense Group of Arizona, a case just buried by the Department of Justice on orders of the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton campaign. And other covert weapons transfers being carried out on the orders of Al-Hajjaj, John Brennan, veteran of Islamic ritual pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. One of the CIA smuggling operations entailed the Belgian-based arms manufacturer Fabrique Nationale, otherwise known as FN, which has CIA-connected subsidiary called FNH USA. One particular FN rifle, the Fusil Automatique Leger, or the FAL, was the standard weapon used by the Libyan rebels in 2011 and 2012, including the jihadist group that attacked the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi on September the 11th, 2012. The FAL, called the right arm of the free world during the Cold War, uses only NATO standard rounds. The weapon was never used by the Libyan army, albeit weaponry. Claims by NATO that the rebels were using Libyan weapons captured from Libyan army arsenals and caches were patently false. Snopes is now questioning Turkey's weapons links to jihadist terrorists in North Africa and Europe. However, photographs do not lie, as seen below. There's a picture here if you want to pull this article up and take a look at it. The link is in the description. It says, ammunition and 5,000 shotguns from Turkish-owned arms dealer Yavax USA were shipped from Istanbul in boxes denoted as plastic office furniture manufactured by the Turkish firm Sanayi Plastik Sanayi v. Ticaret A/S of Istanbul. The Turkish government and the CIA had their plausible deniability cover story on the intercepted weapons and ammunition ready to go just after the Greek Coast Guard interception. For the 492,000 handgun bullets were destined for Sudanese National Police and were to be delivered through the port of Beirut, Lebanon. And the 4,900 shotguns were hunting rifles destined for Lebanese customers. The Haddad's one was stopping at Libyan ports of Mistra and Tobruk, according to the Turkish government, to deliver bags of cement mix. At the time of the interception, Libya was subject to a United Nations arms embargo. Yavex's U.S. subsidiary is located at 6361 Corporate Park Circle in Fort Myers, Florida. It is clear both Yavex USA, Turkey Defense Group, and FN USA, now called FN America, were involved in a covert CIA weapons smuggling operation in violation of the UN arms embargoes imposed on Libya and later on Syria with the connivance of Hillary Clinton. Not surprisingly, FN America operates from a post office box in McLean, Virginia, not far from CIA headquarters in Langley. What may have possessed Hillary Clinton to destroy thousands of State Department emails transmitted, processed, and stored on her personal servers. Perhaps it was her involvement in major CIA weapons smuggling operation that saw U.S. and NATO weapons being shipped to jihadist terrorists in Libya, Syria, and Europe. As Secretary of State, Mrs. Clinton had ultimate authority for approving U.S. weapons transfers abroad pursuant to Arms Export Control Act. As far as Snopes.com is concerned, nothing they report should be taken seriously. They are as reliable news source as The Onion. According to Wikipedia, the Mickelsons, a California couple, created the Snopes site in 1995. By mid-2014, the couple had divorced and Barbara Mickelson had not written for the site in several years. So David Mickelson hired employees to assist him with Snope.com's message board, Barbara no longer has ownership stake in Snopes.com. In other words, we're to believe that one man, David Mickelson, with assistants he'd hired from Snopes message board, manages to pump out a steady stream of researched articles every day. If you believe that, I have a proverbial swamp in Florida to sell you. And the next article is from InfoWars, and it says Facebook empowers far-left group to bury fake news. Facebook has announced it will empower Snopes, an organization with clear left-wing bias, to bury so-called fake news on its newsfeed, a move that clearly opens the door for outright censorship of conservative content and opinion. To combat fake news, Facebook has partnered with a short list of media organizations, including Snopes and ABC News, that are part of an international fact-checking network led by Poynter, a nonprofit school for journalism located in St. Petersburg, Florida, reports Business Insider. The network will identify stories it deems to be fake news and then flag the URL, ensuring the story is buried in its user's feeds and seen by significantly less people. One of the organizations on the list tasked with burying fake news is Snopes, which represents a clear conflict of interest, given that Snopes is clearly not impartial. As the Daily Caller reported, Kim Lapricia, Snopes' main political fact checker, describes herself as openly left-leaning and a liberal. She has previously equated Tea Party conservatives with jihadists. Lapricia regularly plays defense for her fellow liberals, according to Peter Hassan, and has betrayed her partisan bias on numerous occasions by defending Hillary Clinton and claiming that Orlando nightclub terrorist Omar Mateen wasn't a Democrat when he was actually a registered Democrat. Lapricia even denied that Facebook bearing of trending news topics was an issue after Facebook employees admitted it was happening, and Facebook subsequently vowed to change the policy. Does this sound like someone who is impartial, or does it sound like someone who, given the power to do so, will exercise bias by burying conservative opinion as fake news, even when such content is perfectly legitimate? Snopes itself is run by a left-wing couple based out of California. These are people who will be deciding what fake news is and what isn't. The list also includes Washington Post fact checker and inclusion that will also raise concerns, given that only last week the Post had to admit that it couldn't vouch for the viability of Russian propaganda blacklist that a story published by newspaper was entirely based on. The Post was subsequently savaged by Glenn Greenwald at McCarthyite blacklist. Another name on the list of organizations that will police fake news for Facebook is ABC News, an outlet that still employs Brian Williams even after he spread fake news that he was under RPG fire while helicoptering in Iraq. Facebook has basically empowered a bunch of highly partisan left-wing mainstream media outlets to bury fake news. And that's a quote-unquote fake news. Given that mainstream media is distrusted by around 2/3 of Americans, an image blackened further by WikiLeaks' revelation about innumerable journalists being in bed with the Clinton campaign, how can an institution with such low level of trust be handed the power to flag and bury so-called fake news without abusing it? And there is video in this if you want to pull it up and take a look at what they have to offer there. The next one we have is off of Daily Headlines, and this has to do with the Faithless Elector, or try this again, Faithless Texas Elector, guilty of stolen valor. A piece of work, I'll tell you. This is how the article reads. Texas Faithless Elector is not only a liberal represented by Van Jones, connected to George Soros and Ashley Madison customer, but is also a man who is guilty of stolen valor. For years, he has claimed to have been first responder who was one of the first at Ground Zero as a fireman. That turns out to be a lie, since he didn't even become a firefighter until a month after 9/11. He has even been given the honor a few times of throwing out the first pitch at a major league ballparks, being announced as one of the hero firemen who worked at World Trade Center site just after the attacks. The Republican elector, who has gotten national attention for refusing to vote for Donald Trump at the Electoral College on December the 19th, was apparently not a first responder on September 11, 2001, as he stated for years, and has a questionable career history, according to an investigation by WFAA. Chris Suprin, age 42, portrays himself as a heroic firefighter who was among the first on the scene after the third plane flew into the Pentagon on 9/11. In a heavily publicized editorial this month for the New York Times, Suprin stated that as a member of the Electoral College, he will not cast his ballot for Trump because the president-elect shows daily he is not qualified for the office. Suprin, a Dallas resident for more than a decade, even used his resume to establish credibility in the Times piece, writing in the second paragraph, 15 years ago as firefighter, I was part of the response to the September 11th attack against our nation. And he's founded a nonprofit called Never Forget, and state records show he is a licensed paramedic, but much of the rest of the resume, publicly available on LinkedIn, is questionable. In addition, on at least 2 occasions over the last couple years at crowded Major League Baseball games, Suprin has been introduced as a 9/11 veteran before throwing out the first pitches. He claimed to be first responder with the Manassas Park, Virginia Fire Department on September the 11th, 2001, and personally told us stories. I was fighting fire that day at the Pentagon. No, I was on a medic unit that day at the Pentagon, and you make a phone call to Manassas Park and you find out that he wasn't even employed there until October of 2001, said a first responder who knows Suprin and only agreed to speak about him if his identity was concealed. And the next article I have for you is off of Gateway Pundit, and it says, exposed. Faithless elector Chris Suprin paid for Ashley Madison while bankrupt and married with 3 kids. Chris Suprin is one of 38 Texas electors. He recently went public with his decision to go against the will of the people of Texas. He will not be honoring his pledge to vote for President-elect Donald Trump. It's taken quite a beating on social media by Americans who are outraged at his decision to go rogue. There was even a petition started to have him removed and replaced. Eyebrows were raised and suspicions grew over what Mr. Suprin's intentions really are after he happened, after he penned an op-ed in the New York Times over his decision to be a faithless elector. Shockingly, his Twitter bio directs media inquiries to a PR firm, Megaphone Strategies. This PR firm represents a radical left-wing organization like Black Lives Matter and even reps CNN's ultra-left-wing radical Van Jones. Leave it to the great sleuthing via Got News to peel back the layers of the onion to fully expose Chris Suprin. I get this to scroll up. Here we go. It says Got News research has revealed that Chris Suprin filed bankruptcy and 6 months later joined Ashley Madison, which is a dating site for married people looking to have an affair. Mr. Suprin had 3 children under the age of 10 at the time. It is also alleged that he was employed during this time while his wife worked full-time. Is this the type of person who should be allowed to be an elector? If he can't even be faithful to his wife and family, how do we expect him to be faithful and uphold his pledge as an elector? As Chris Suprin is ripe for blackmail or bribery and must be removed and replaced immediately. And that's all I have for you in this episode, but there'll be more.